He's one of my first mentors, and I still talk to him today, and he happens to still be the airport manager there. So I kind of took that route in getting into airport management, and then carried on to positions with the Maryland State Aviation Administration, Fort Lauderdale Executive, and now I've been fortunate to be here at the Broward County Aviation Department at Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International for the last 25 years, where I'm currently now and worked my way up to Director of Airport Operations. So my division encompasses a little over 100 people, and we're responsible for the day-to-day movement of passengers through the terminal buildings. I have airside operations, landside and ground transportation, our airport operations control center, parking operations, terminal operations, fire rescue and ramp control kind of underneath my umbrella, if you will. So anything that happens, my staff is out there dealing with the passengers on face-to-face, with moving aircraft on the ramps and passengers through the terminal building. Every day is different. I wouldn't change it for anything. And this airport has been one of the fastest growing airports in the nation, and I couldn't have picked a better place to be at. So that's a little bit of where we're at. And this is a great opportunity with forums like this for students who are able or interested in aviation to be able to participate in and hear some from some of the professionals in the industry.
Thank you, John. And for many of you that joined us since the beginning, I didn't want to throw this out just because I wanted to hear your personal stories first. But if something attracts people or attracts people now and is going to attract people in the future, it's how stable and how big is the industry you're getting in. And so to give some numbers to our participants today, and I don't have, of course, the latest numbers. Maybe our panelists could help us with this. But, this industry, it's not, you just heard Jason talking about his budget, right? It's humongous. It's huge, right? It's billions, thousands of billions of dollars in this one airport, which is not the largest in the country. But imagine if you could get into one of the top 5 largest airports in the country. And we're not just talking about the industries that these 3 gentlemen are talking about here. We're talking about passenger airlines. We're talking about cargo airlines. We're talking about aircraft manufacturing companies. We're talking about airport managing companies. We're talking about catering and many other industries within those industries. So the next question I'm going to ask has to be more about your roles. Because if somebody asked me today, if I asked Lynn or Andrea or any of the executives that are sitting on today's call, what is your day? How it looks like, what is your job, right? It will be hard for a student or for anyone else out there who's in this call, in this video call, to really grasp what we do. For example, me, right? It's I fundraise, I do operations, I do marketing, I manage interns and manage staff in New York. It will have to be a long conversation about what an executive director or non-for-profit does. So I know it's going to be challenging to maybe explain what you guys do, but I think there is no better way to explain to our audience what is the aviation industry, by tell them what you actually do. So really brief. So I'm going to start with John because we finished with John. I'm going to start with John this time. John, what is that you actually do? How you could describe really short.
Really short.
What you actually do? No, really, actually, what is your day? You get into the office, and what is your day? How it looks like?
Well, I will tell you, there's no typical. Go ahead,
John. What are the skills that you feel? As Jason was mentioning before, he was not into the aviation industry, but I bet we will get into Jason. There was some skills that made it the person and the professional that he is now and sitting in that chair. So maybe you want to share what is your day, but also what skills do you think a person will need in order to be in your chair?
Okay. Well, I will tell you, there is no typical day. I may have meetings on my calendar, but with one single phone call, which got a phone call at 2:30 this morning with activities here. Every day is different, which makes it exciting. But my main role of my division as the division director is to make sure that the staff that operate within the operations division have the tools and training and guidance that they need to be able to carry out their job. I rely heavily on them I do a lot of, meetings and stuff like that, working with contractors. But they're on the front line and dealing with the passengers and the emergency response. So my job's a 24/7 job. I have my phone at my bedside, and sometimes it goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning and you have an emergency where an aircraft has landed gear up on the runway. And some nights you're able to get through the entire night, but which may sound, daunting to some people, but it's exciting for me. Every day is different challenges. Having the different areas of the airport under my responsibility, I get faced with different problems and exciting events, and especially when you have airlines like Spirit operating here at the airport with the growth that they've experienced, it's always new. So some of the skills that you need to have, I have always found, is somebody who likes change. If you're not afraid of something new happening all the time, then definitely within the operations division is where you kind of want to be. And if it's just 8 to 4:30 or something like that, then it's probably not going to be where you want to be. Adaptability is huge. Our staff is very adaptable. Things happen all the time. It may be quiet one day, and then the next thing you have a fire alarm in a terminal building and you're evacuating, 50,000 people. So anything can change. So adaptability and to be able to deal with and problem solve is a huge one. Our staff is faced with, pre-COVID, we'd have 80 to 100,000 passengers coming through the airport on a daily basis. So, and each one comes in stressed because travel is not sometimes easy for people. And they have different challenges, and we're there to help them, guide them through that process, and hopefully that they have a wonderful experience, because we know that their travel, their vacation, their business travel starts and may end right here at the airport. So how they experience and what their whole trip is made of is how their experience is at the airport. So awesome. It's never a typical day for any of us here. But which makes it exciting, and that's why I'm in it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And we have, of course, Pascual, which for me, his title is the one who was really excited because I don't really get to know what exactly it is. So I'm really excited to his answer, right? Because when you said for focus stations, who maybe between you guys are like, oh, of course I know. But for people who's outside of this world of aviation, we don't know what you guys meant by that. So I'm really excited about hearing from Pascual what exactly that you do, what is your role every day, and again, the skills that you feel individuals should have, not just maybe in your case for your position, but for working in a corporation as large as Spirit.
Well, thanks, John. And I think it's important to understand that this is a people's business and we're moving people all the time. So a couple components that I think are important to have are empathy, vision, and more importantly, drive, because like JP mentioned, this business is ever changing and no day looks like the previous day. And I always feel compelled to tell people that this is something that continues to change, and we're always adapting to new processes, new procedures. And as far as what my day-to-day looks like, it's a lot of conference calls, like JP said, but when you're leading stations remotely, you have to stay very close to the other cities and understand their challenges, because ultimately we need to provide support. We need to provide the tools necessary for people to do their job and be able to execute it properly. Lastly, I think it's important, and you probably see it on the call, JP and I chat very frequently, is that we need to foster those relationships. And relationships in this industry being so broad and so big, relationships matter the most, because it's through collaboration and through working relationships that we get things accomplished.
Awesome, Pascual. Thank you so much for that. And then last but not least, Jason, you're the numbers person. So when you hear finance from a student or from a person who wants to get into the industry, first thing, do I have to be good at math? Can I be the director of finance without being good at math? No, just joking. But how's your day by day besides, I guess, looking to a lot of numbers?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you make the math comment, because in my late teens and 20s, I was really good at math, and Then I became more familiar with Microsoft Excel, and I think it's forced me to, or caused me to lose some of those skills. So I've become probably too dependent on my computer. Look, it is really important that you have a good technical foundation. I mean, if you want to do what I do, you've got to have formal accounting training. You've got to have formal finance training. I'd say in the last 20 years since I got out of school, it's become much more important to understand how what we call ERP systems. So the software that drives the business. So do you understand the way that a database works? Do you understand how reporting works? Those are skills that I don't remember being stressed in school that are really important parts of what I do for a living now. You've gotten some really good insight from Pascual and JP. As your career evolves and you advance, the technical skills are still necessary, but there's an evolution that occurs where your people skills and your reputation and your ability to encourage and uplift those that, if you're fortunate enough to be a manager, report up to you. I've got a team of 24. I can't do all of the work it takes to run a finance department. I have to motivate, my team and help lead them and kind of massage them in a certain direction. But I can't be successful if they're not successful, and I can't take the workload on without them. And so the soft skills become, to me, almost more important as you advance through your career. So maybe more of a dependency on technical skills on the front end, but then the people organizational skills become more important later. I'll be very quick with this, but you're asking what's the typical day, and I'm looking at my calendar. The last couple of days, I've had meetings on our concessions, our rental cars. I've had an industry association call. I'm on the board of directors for the Florida Institute of CPA, so I've had a call with them. I've met with my capital team twice to discuss our budget for next year. We have a large capital program here. I've had meetings with our downtown Office of Management and Budget. I had a mentoring session with someone in a program we call Leadership in Flight. I've had a security partnership meeting, and I have done multiple financial models to kind of reset the airport post-COVID. And
oops, I think we lost Jason for a minute. While we get Jason back, he was really looking into all these meetings, and we were talking about soft skills and also technical skills. And I think that yesterday we had the foundation, we had a conversation with internally you're back?
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. Our Wi-Fi cut out. I'll be quick. So I'm looking at the counter. Yeah, we're working on budget targets. We're identifying some of our tenants and what their status is. A lot of them are in the news right now, trying to, in some cases, help their companies survive. So there is no same day, every day. You have got to be flexible, and you have to be willing to try to become at least a quasi-expert in areas that you may not have any formal training in, because life comes at you fast in this business.
I love that. And I was making a comment while you got disconnected for a second. It's that yesterday we had a meeting with the former Minister of Telecommunications of Colombia. And he was sharing something that actually relates to what you all have mentioned, which is, we are humans first. And that human piece, it's so important. And people person, I believe, will survive any other pandemic or any other, challenge that we have as humanity, because the way that you have to connect after you learn your skills to be successful is just as important as learning Excel for you, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot function maybe without Excel, but if you are a person, if you are a people person, if you are a person who networks, who is dynamic, who it looks like for all your roles, you have to learn how to change and be open-minded to big challenges like the ones you guys confront every day. You really need to have that people person, that networking in you. So for all of the individuals that are listening today, I think that is what I take personally, and I hope everyone else is doing the same. We wanted to add, of course, a question around COVID-19, because people losing jobs left and right. We have the biggest, unemployment numbers since the Great Depression. We have lost millions of jobs in the time of 2-3 months, and the aviation industry has been, of course, really well kept through the federal government. There was a big, lifesaver, if you want to call it that way, of a lot of money, which I believe for every single big industry should be the same. But there was some security there. I wanted to ask, and I know you guys decided that I believe JP will answer this question from the airport side. So let me start maybe just with Pascual first, but I know JP is going to answer this. It's how is it your company has, or has your organization has really protected the employees, protected the culture of the company, maybe letting you work remotely, doing, pivoting the way that they working now. How do you guys protected your company employees? Because some of the individuals that are in this call, in this video call, might be interested to get into the aviation industry, but they're now thinking like, oh, I don't know if I should get into it because I don't know if I'm going to have a job security in the future. So what you guys could tell them in terms of the reaction of your organization in these difficult times. So Pascual?
Well, thanks, John. And we're certainly focused on keeping everybody safe, and we allowed all of our headquarters employees to work from home, and the grand majority of our airport employees to remain safe at home as well. But I think it's also important to note how well how safe we've actually kept our flying public. So we've added a lot of measures and adapted to the CDC guidelines over the past 2 months to include fogging of airplanes, to include now it is required as of May 11th to wear masks at the airport and on board our aircrafts. We've added electrostatic sprayers using Clorox 360 machines at our ticket counters, at our common areas, gates, break rooms. And lastly, I think it's important to note that all of our Airbus fleet is actually equipped with HEPA filters. So again, a lot of things that we had to adapt over the last 2 months to ensure that our flying public and our own employees are safe, again, for the benefit of everybody.
Awesome, thank you, Pascual. So John?
Yeah, the airport, some of the things we've done is similar to what Pascual has done. And with our employees especially, we've instituted, and we're a department within the county, so we take our direction from county administration. But, we've implemented where we can telework scenarios with personnel. Not all personnel are able to do that. Many of the personnel in my division are not, because we're out there with the public who are flying and have to be out there. Many of our jobs cannot be telework. But we've instituted where we can telework, safety supplies with our personnel who are out there with the public and with face coverings and masks and stuff like that, and hand sanitizer out there. We've instituted where now we're used to doing things face-to-face with our stakeholders, our tenants, even our own staff. So we've seen now where we use more technology with conference calls or Skype meetings or something else, very similar to what we're doing here. And many of us who may be in an office right next to each other and we're doing conference calls. So we try to make sure and follow those guidelines with social distancing. From the passenger standpoint, we work very closely with all of our stakeholders, especially with Pascual, and how we work together to gain that confidence of the flying public to come back as airlines increase flights to come back to the airport. So there's many things that we've done in the terminal building with a lot of enhanced and detailed cleaning of our terminal buildings, facilities, hand sanitizer units throughout the terminal buildings at our checkpoints. We're starting to put in plexiglass at our ticket counters and gate areas that you see, and social distancing stickers and blocking out chairs, and even if you stand in a queue line at a security checkpoint or at a ticket counter, social distancing markers on the ground. So a lot of this is as we develop it together, but this is definitely a huge collaborative project between ourselves and all of our tenants, because without the passenger, none of us are around. So we have to work together to make sure that we can not only provide a safe and secure facility, but now a sanitary facility, so that the passenger does come back and does take advantage of air transportation.
So I know we're getting close to the Q&A session. I'm going to take the sharing on my screen out. Can you guys still see me? Yeah. So we all come back here. What I wanted to do now is, I know that we have a lot of young adults here, even adults that try to get into the market, into the aviation careers. So my last question before we move into the Q&A, it's more about, and I know Lynn might be smiling because I'm going to promote her webinar next week, which is, technical colleges, right? We have an incredible la creme, group of colleges here in Broward County that have an aviation program. But if a student, if a young adult wants to get into working in your organizations, what would be your recommendation? What would be the next step? What they have to do now that you guys are hiring, where they could go? What are the entry-level positions that you guys feel a student that is doing accounting or is good in numbers, or a student who's good in operations, or a student who's good in customer service or project management, or maybe they don't know how they start exploring, the industry. So I'm going to start the way that we started with Jason, and then I'm going to move to Pascual and Jason. So Jason, what are your thoughts about that question?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I feel a little bit guilty answering this before JP, because he's very active in this area. Not to put him on the spot here, but he's demonstrated he's all in on helping folks develop and transition into the aviation career. So, but I will answer. I'll say I did actually 3 different internships when I was in college. A lot of unpaid work. But boy, I tell you, it changes the direction of your career trajectory, because folks are much more willing to take a chance on you and maybe work out some of the early kinks, especially if you're not used to showing up at work at a certain time or having a supervisor, or some of the aspects that go into just being a professional. They're more willing to endure some of the bumps and bruises if you're an intern. Just trying to find your way. But in terms of, like what I do for a finance department, we have experimented or we talked a lot about incorporating an internship here in the finance group. I think that's something we're eventually going to get to. I would encourage if I actually think it's, in the ideal world, get the technical skills through college. If you're interested in accounting, interested in finance, learn that through your formal training. And if I had to do it over again, I'd be spending time in JP's group learning the operations, because you can have all the technical accounting skills in the world, but if you don't understand how the business works, you have to work like 2-3 times harder to get your arms around it. So I think the way to get in and really learn this is through his avenue.
Awesome. Pascual?
Agree with what Jason said. I think internships are super important, which gets you out there, gets you committed, and gets you a broad understanding of what the industry is like. I actually, very similar to Jason, worked out of the 20 years of my career, actually 13 of those have been in finance-related roles, which again, I learned that I was pretty good in finance, very similar to Jason, just simply through internships. But for anybody who's really starting out in this career, move ahead is there's entry-level positions that are always out there, and Spirit Airlines is always looking for qualified individuals, and our webpage is always up to date with our latest vacancies. I would also encourage people to stay very close to their LinkedIn profiles through social media. Resumes up to date, that is hugely important. And if lastly, if I can say, and I'm going to reiterate it one more time, which is relationships in this industry matter the most. This is a huge industry with very few people that work in it. So again, you got to foster those relationships, get some mentorship under your belt, and have somebody guide you through this processes. One more thing, lastly, is I think regarding entry-level positions, throughout my my early days in this industry, I became a flight dispatcher, and that's what really led me to get addicted to the jet fuel and doing this. A fabulous career dispatching airplane and working in flight operations. It pays extremely well. And again, in South Florida, in particular, Spirit Airlines has a dispatch center. So again, important to know it out there for those of you who are interested in flight ops.
Awesome, Pascual. Thank you. JP, we want to leave the last, because you're the best for what I heard from John.
No pressure.
So no pressure, but just, you know, bring us all the things that you know, because we want to hear
it. Thanks, Jason. I owe you one. I appreciate the comments. Yeah, to get into the industry, I teach at 3 universities, Broward College, Embry-Riddle, and Southern Illinois. I really enjoy that, doing it. But for those who are wanting to get into aviation, I will tell you that South Florida is probably one of the largest areas of concentration of aviation around in the country. And you have your choice from a number of universities in Florida. You don't even have to leave the state for an education. And I will tell you, just because I teach there, Broward College is probably one of your best ones. And my boss, Mike Nonamike, our chief operating officer, and myself have been teaching there probably over 15 years, and we helped develop the program, degree program there. And part of that degree program, under the associate's degree, includes an internship 1 and 2 here at the airport. And internship 1 is within the operations division, and internship 2 gets to see our other divisions within the department, including Jason's in finance. Because, you know, operations, yeah, I guess it's sort of the entry level for airport management. But I'll be honest, if you don't understand, like Jason said, all the different divisions that are involved in running the airport, you're selling yourself short, because it takes all of us to do it, and you need to understand each other's role. And I'm still learning every single day, especially through this budget time frame with Jason, how this whole thing works and how we're going, you know, finance the airport. Yeah. But the internship program is great. I will tell you, it's been very successful. We have, over the years, have hired over 50 students from Broward College into the aviation department, into entry-level positions here. And they've moved around in the department, been promoted up. In fact, I believe Jason has one of our graduates up there, and or they've moved on to other airports. So I think internships are great. I get a lot of requests for interns. I think there's probably any given semester, we probably have 8 to 10 interns running around through the airport. But you can go at any airport. And I will tell you, the best way to break into the industry is to find somebody that's doing what you want to do, and reach out to them and say, I'm interested. Would you support an internship for free? And I tell you that aviation, everyone that's in it, is somehow drawn to it. Just like Jason said, he drove around the terminal building and said, that's where I want to be. I tell you, I have to smell jet fuel and burnt rubber every morning. It makes my day go well. But everyone's drawn to it because they have a passion for aviation. And I'm going to venture a guess all the people that are on this call have some kind of a draw to aviation. There's no bad experience. I've worked cargo, I've worked throwing bags, and there's any job that you get is great because it helps you understand the overall operation of aviation. As big as the industry is, it's very small, and the people that know each other, you can always find somebody who knows somebody that is doing what you want to do. So I recommend to those students to reach out to anybody, and you can even cold call them and just say, hey, I'm interested. Can you point me in the right direction? And I can't think of any aviation professional who would say, don't bother me. They absolutely want to, because they enjoy having people that have the same passion as they do.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. Because there's one specific question about your teaching at ERAU.
Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Yeah.
Yeah. What class did you teach there? Somebody asked.
Oh, I teach a number of classes, mostly airport management, transportation, some production logistics types classes. So they have a degree program, an undergrad and a bachelor's and a master's degree. I teach bachelor level classes there. So it can be airline management, a number of them. At Broward College, I teach the bachelor undergrad. They had a 2-year, and now they have a 4-year bachelor's program, which they just started over about a year ago. So people can go to Broward College because Embry-Riddle is a private university. It can be expensive. I got my master's degree there. So it can be expensive. So there is options for them.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move into the Q&A. Just some instructions here, so I want to be clear. If you want to let your mic go on and share your question by showing your face and projecting your voice, you have to raise your hand. So if you step on the screen, there's going to be a panel, a control panel, where you could raise your hand, and I will allow you to speak out loud. If not, just write your question on the chat, and I will make sure that our panelists get the question. So before people figure it out the hand, because you usually take some time, I'm going to go with some questions that are here already in the chat. One is from Anna Caver. She says, how can students find out about internship opportunities? Do you offer internships for high school seniors, Spirit and the airport? Pascual, you wanna tackle first?
I will take that on. We do offer internships, but mostly for high school graduates. So you must have a degree prior to the internship.
Perfect. Airport?
Yeah, we do have a summer program with 2, I think, 4-week sessions that we usually offer they are high school students. You don't have to be a graduate. It's someone that's interested in aviation. We reach out to the different schools through our guest experience team, and they'll match you up into different departments within aviation. You get to spend a few weeks with them or the whole summer within those different divisions within the department. So we do offer those types of internships. Other ones, I've had students just call me out of the blind and say, I'm interested. Would you support an internship? And many times I've gone ahead and done that and worked out a private internship with the individuals, depending on what they want to do. I can't offer to pay anybody, but that experience and being able to put it on a resume does help. So I try never to turn anybody down that gives a call up to see and when they want to get some experience. We have interns that show up every January, except for this last year from Canada, actually, to spend time at the airport and their travel and tourism degree program so that they understand how an airport works.
And I see you, Miles. I just had 2 more questions before you, so I'm going to go with them. Does the aviation class cover aviation mechanics training? So I guess some of our students is asking if he or she takes a aviation class at a technical college. And Lynn, you're more than welcome to take your microphone off. Or in a Broward College, do they get into the mechanics or the mechanical training?
Yeah, there's different degree programs. So you can go specifically for an airframe and power plant mechanics classes, and they're geared towards that. And I believe it's a 2-year program to go through to get your A.A.P license. That's usually then you get your A.A.P and it may give you an associate's degree, but I do recommend any person that does that, if they wish to move up in the management chain and get supervision, that they carry that forward and complete the bachelor's degree and get your bachelor's degree in management, or they have one at Broward College in supervisor in management as well. So yes, they do. They have a flight program that's specific to flight students as well. And they have one that I'm involved with and I teach is basically the operations management degree program.
Awesome.
So John, this is Lynn. I'll jump in that Atlantic Technical College opened up an avionics program.
Oh, great.
And we're partnering. Broward College has been a significant piece of this. Dr. Galligan and Russ McCaffrey has been.
I know a professor I could refer you. His name is Jason.
So the program I'm referring to is avionics, and it's a year-long program. And there's a piece of the program where students will actually be working at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport.
Oh,
and
great.
There's a number of businesses on the airport that will be working with the students.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
so
that's
much.
a whole nother area. And everyone thinks about aviation, they think pilot, most cases, and they forget that we talk about retirements, and you hear about all of these pilots that are going to retire, all these air traffic controllers are going to retire. Well, there's also people in A&P mechanic, they're in avionics, they're in airport management, that are also going to retire. So there is a desperate need also too for those technicians. It may not sound as glamorous, but I will tell you, with today's technology and what you see in a cockpit, you have to be very skilled to be able to work on these aircraft now, both avionics and airframe and power plant.
Well, thank you. And the only thing I would add to that is the program at Atlantic Tech is both for high school and adults.
That's fantastic.
And we will have more. Don't sell out yourself right now, Short, Lynn. We have more coming up next week with our technical colleges webinar, where we will talk about every single thing that they do, which is incredible. We have one more question, and then Miles, I haven't forgot about you.
Sure.
We have a question in terms of aviation colleges. So what are some aviation colleges in New York City and Florida, if any of you on the panel knows? I guess this question comes from New York. The person who's asking says, it's really difficult to find aviation colleges in New York City.
I'm aware of one. I think it is Farmingdale, in Farmingdale, New York. I think there's a college there that may be more of like a size of a Broward college. But if you were to just Google search aviation schools in New York, you can certainly do it that way. In Florida, I know you have Embry-Riddle up in Daytona Beach. You have Broward College here locally. You have Florida, what is it? Lynn University has aviation. You have Florida Institute of Technology, FIT, that's up in the Melbourne area as well. You have Polk College up in the center of the state, unless I'm missing a few other ones.
Pascual, you said one, or did JP cover it?
I'm regarding New York City, right in front of LaGuardia Airport.
Yeah, I know.
College.
Yeah, actually, I was about to say, I lived in New York for 14 years. There's Aviation High School in Queens. They have their program, but Aviation High School actually is connected to a aviation private college that is next to the airport. I forgot their name. Maybe you know the name, Pascual? I don't recall.
No, I don't recall, but certainly right in front of LaGuardia Airport, you have one called Vaughn's College, and in Miami, Miami-Dade County.
Awesome.
Miami-Dade Community College. I'm sorry.
So we have a lot of questions, but I know Miles has been holding his hand steady. So Miles, if you could tell this, we know your name, but where you're connecting from and who's your question to, if it's the whole panel or someone specific.
Sure, definitely. So my name is Miles. I'm currently in Orlando. I just graduated from the University of Central Florida with a major and a bachelor's degree in hospitality and tourism management. The aviation industry has always been a passion of mine and something I've always really been interested in. So when I heard about this panel the other day, I definitely wanted to seize the opportunity on that. My question is for the whole panel. And by the way, I definitely wanted to thank everyone for this opportunity. My question for the panel is, how do you define success in your current role?
Awesome.
Ooh, that's a tough question, Miles.
Miles, we're going to do another webinar around your question. Go ahead. I'm going to put Pascual on the spot to start. Go ahead, Pascual.
What does success look like? Well, from an airport operations perspective, it's twofold. I think it relates to a lot of the operational reliability and how efficient the airline's running and how well you deliver bags to every single one of your customers. But more importantly, I think on the flip side, success really looks like more of an internal framework as opposed to an external framework with our external customers. And at the end of the day, I'm not customers. I don't serve cocktails on board. I don't deliver the bags. It's really the frontline employees that do that. So success looks like an engaged teamwork, engaged team members, happy team members, because ultimately they're the ones delivering the product. So the happier your frontline employees are, the happier your flight attendants, your ramp employees, your gate agents, the happier they are, the better of a product that they will deliver. So your question is more twofold, but I honestly feel that those two components are what really make my success or Spirit Airlines' success locally.
And I'm just going to have a parenthesis here. We went over our time. I'm going to be respectful of everyone's time and make sure that we agree to just spend our next 10 minutes in answering the questions. If you have to go, except for a panelist, I'm going to hack you for 10 minutes. But if you have to go, we completely understand. This conversation just keeps going better as all these questions are trickling in. But I know, again, if the panelists, you guys have to go, please let me know. And I will make sure that we know that you guys have to step to something else because of your agendas. But John, do you want to take a step to the question from Miles?
Yeah, Miles, let me give you an answer with a question. When you say define success, are you talking personally or within our organization?
Sorry, you can answer both. I'm probably talking more about your specific position.
Okay, well, I guess for me, success, I look at it, I mean, each individual has to look at it and say, am I achieving what I wanted to achieve? And is, like Pascual say, my success depends solely on the personnel within my division. If they're not engaged in doing what they should be doing that helps the airport grow and working the passengers, then I have no success. So my whole goal is to make sure, or my success is contingent upon how I can engage my staff, give them the tools, training, guidance, mentorship that helps them want to stay engaged, wants them to grow in their position. That translates into happy passengers and more passengers at the airport because they're involved with the passengers on a daily basis.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Jason?
Yeah, I think about success this way. Especially right now, and this has kind of reiterated my philosophy. We're going through a tough time. We haven't talked a lot about COVID, and I believe me, I've talked about it more than I ever cared to. But we're going through a tough period right now. The last time I think back is probably 2008, 2009 with the financial crisis, and that wasn't on par with what we're dealing with right now. To me, being successful is when your peers rely on you. When they trust you, when they view you as a necessary resource in the room, at that point you've achieved a standing among your peers that you're contributing the right way. So I always say, am I being invited to the dance, and do I have dance partners? And if the answer is yes, I think I've done a pretty good job.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering those and for your question. We have a couple of other questions. One is around the demand for pilots during the pandemic. The question is the demand for pilots going to be the same after this pandemic? If not, how long do you think it will take for it to be what it used to be? Anyone who wants to take this one? As we're running out of time, maybe just one person, maybe two.
Well, I can take that one on. I think the demand was very present prior to COVID, but I think anybody in this forum's guess is just as good as mine. We are seeing a slight recovery in the industry this last couple of weeks, and particularly Spirit Airlines, we're planning to increase our flying schedule in July and August to about 70% of what we were flying prior to COVID. I personally, again, this is not Spirit Airlines, this is just my personal opinion. I do feel that demand will come back to the levels prior to COVID sometime at around December, as long as we have a successful summer time frame. So July and August are very telling for this industry. So again, stay put. Your guess is just as good as mine. I obviously feel that demand will eventually come back. There will always be a demand for pilots. Without pilots, there is no airline that can fly. I don't fly airplanes. No, I don't think lots of us in this forum fly airplanes. But again, without them, we're not going anywhere. So important to know that I do feel demand is going to come back. When it does, your guess is just as good as anybody on this forum right now.
Thank you, Pascual. We have someone from the audience, Leonardo Morales. Feel free to answer your question. Ask your question and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello, guys. I'm Leonardo Morales. I live here in Santiago, Dominican Republic. I want to thank you to all the panelists for sharing all your appreciated knowledge in aviation. Well, my question is, I used to work for Spirit here in Santiago for about 3 years, working as operation agent. Now I'm working with another airline, Inter-Caribbean, for the Caribbean. My question is, how difficult will it be to keep building my aviation experience there in Florida? All my experience here in Santiago in the foreign will be taken account for keep working there.
And hey, we got to the Dominican Republic, guys. So I'm glad that we got this question all the way from La Isla. This is pretty cool. Thank you, Leonardo, for your question. So I guess it's more about your international experience being transferred to a local American experience. So in terms of airport or a corporation like Spirit, what has been your experience by bringing individuals with experience that is not local to Florida or to New York or to Chicago? What is that experience? How you guys manage that level of that experience, like the experience that Leonardo has?
Well, I'm going to take this one on. Experience is surely valued, and based on based on our availability or our job openings, obviously we gauge the people's experience based on what they've done in the past. Whether it's been in Santiago, whether it's been in Colombia, whether it's been in Brazil, whether it's been in Europe, I think the industry is quite similar. So everybody that brings in a different sense of a trajectory over their path is highly valued wherever you're going. So again, whether you've been a ramp employee or security agent employee, a flight attendant in another carrier or in the past, I think it's certainly experience that is valued, that's respected, and is certainly appreciated once you apply. And based on those conditions, we'll certainly make decisions for hiring purposes.
Any other takings from the airport side? Kind of similar. John or Jason?
Yeah, there's no bad experience. I actually have a supervisor that's on staff who used to work in Jamaica. She's from Jamaica and worked for the aviation department there. Aviation is international. We all follow the same kind of rules. So that experience that she has is very valuable because it brings an international flavor to the staff that I have here. Similar rules because we all follow underneath the I.A.E, International Civil Aviation Organization. They're slightly different with U.S. rules, but there's no bad experience. It all translates.
And I know Pascual has to go for a meeting. So Pascual, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. We're gonna have a last question, and then we move forward to wrap up. But thank you so much for the partnership with the Spirit, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, guys. JP, Jason, thanks for everything.
The other person that put a question here had to be with aspiring to be a pilot, and I'm going to just take this question and then we're going to wrap up. I guess we keep hearing about the pilot, right? Because I think a lot of our youth and a lot of our young graduates relate to that because that's how we have marketed the aviation industry. But what are your recommendations on how to build a resume, what work that person should do, in order to make or to become a pilot? That is his question, Sebastian Torres, a student from Broward County.
I have my private pilot's license. There's a couple of different ways to go about it, depending on what your goal is and what you want to fly. Traditionally, when I was younger, the way to get into being a pilot, say for a major airline, was really to go through the military route, gain your pilot hours there flying jets, and then transition over. You can start anywhere. You can find somebody who has a instructor's license and their own plane or flying club and be able to start your license that way, or you can go through a university. Either way, you're going to be taught the same way. It's a matter of building hours. In order to get to a commuter job, you have to have 1,500 hours of flight time. But there are other options. Many people just think airlines is where I want to fly. Well, cargo, there's a need for cargo pilots. It may not seem as glamorous, but I will tell you, cargo doesn't complain in the back seat. But there's also fractional ownership, which is private jet traffic, where people buy a timeshare of an aircraft and you're flying celebrities or executives or business owners in an aircraft all around the world. One of our my supervisor husband flies for that and used to fly for the airlines. So there's different routes depending on what it is that you want to fly. But it's a matter of building hours to be able to do it. And it can be expensive. And when you, by the time you get to your ATP, when you're up to 1,500 hours of flight time plus multi-engine time.
So I promise this will be the last question. We actually not even went all the way to the Dominican Republic, but we actually went to La Isla del Encanto in Puerto Rico. A student from the University of Puerto Rico has a question. It's more about the internships. So John and Jason, do you guys accept or have a program for sophomore, freshman college students at this point at the airport, or you guys don't have any kind of like college student program besides the summer, I believe JP mentioned before?
Well, our internships right now are through with Broward College. Right now are on hold with the COVID situation until we figure out how we do all that. And they're, freshman, sophomore, all the way through. High school level is usually that summertime, but outside of that, any other formal internships, we don't. We kind of do them on a fly. If a student was to call us up and say, I would like to do an internship, and then I'd sit and talk to them and see if we can't work something out. As long as that they're 18 years old, we usually be able to work them in, and it's a lot of shadowing with the different personnel we have and try to understand what is it that they want to get involved with. So I have a full-time college intern that I have. It's a year long, and I just hired him. Actually, he was one of my past students at Broward College. That's ideally set up for someone for a year long, and after that, they're either promoted within our department, or maybe they found a job outside of the department at another airport, and we'll hire somebody else. But that's usually how we do the internships. I'm not sure if Jason has anything else.
Are you on mute? Yep.
There we go. Yeah, I don't think I can add a whole lot to that other than I wouldn't limit yourself to only the large, what we call commercial service airports. I mean, there are a lot of general aviation airports or even just smaller commercial service airports who could certainly use the manpower. And most of the principles carry across, whether it's, a commercial service airport or a GA airport or something in between. So any experience, like Pascual mentioned before he left, I think is transferable. So I wouldn't limit it to, only the big airports a lot of people are familiar with commercially. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I will tell you, when I worked at a GA airport, your experience to all areas, and many times that airport manager at a GA airport is the finance director, the business director, the PIO, and everything. And you can get a lot of breadth of experience at a GA airport, whereas at a large commercial service, you can be sort of segregated into different divisions.
So so that was the last question, but I have a comment here from Anna Caver from the Junior Achievement organization here in South Florida. And she said that they are looking for companies that could host their students. So Anna, if you're still there, I put my email. You could definitely send me a note, and I will forward that to our panelists today. So if they are interested in hearing more about the Junior Achievement Program, we are here to connect also all the parties that attend our webinars. Last but not least, we have someone from Brazil, okay? So she just sent a message, or he, Mateus, I think it's a man. You guys are all the way in Brazil too. Cheers. So thank you so much for connecting. I would just, again, as we started this, the Y.B Foundation, it's really invested into transforming and reinventing education. We do believe that the way that we do this is by hosting webinars and online forums like this that could really bring the reality of these industries into your houses talking to individuals that are successful in their roles and that they are really telling you what to do when you are either in high school, getting into college, or graduated from college. Because I do, as a person who has been in the educational industry for more than 14 years, I do believe that you never stop learning and you never will find your passion until you said one day, my son is going to college, my son is going to high school, because that's the reality. We want to, again, thank our partners today, Spirit Airlines, the airport, the Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport. Make sure that all of you really take this as a great experience for your careers, but also I wanted to make sure that I give out a couple of things that I took as notes. One, make sure that you are doing internships. Make sure that you are connected with what you want to do. Because if you want to be a surgeon, but you have never been in a room full of blood, I don't think you're going to the right, to the right career. So if you want to be in the aviation industry, in finance, in operations, in a corporate office with a airline, make sure that you are getting into those internships so you could find out if you're good at it, if you like what you see in the everyday basis. Make sure that you are good on your soft skills, that you take classes within your high school or college around soft skills. Build relationships. We are going to have a LinkedIn training in 2 weeks. It's actually our first webinar in June around LinkedIn profiles, how to build it, how to make it professional. So make sure that you tune in. We will be sending that information shortly. Also, make sure that you have mentors. And I don't want to put JP or Jason on the spot, but if you want to reach out to them, you already have their names. So you have a LinkedIn, send them a request with a note. I went through your webinar. I would love to learn more about what you're doing. And maybe they spend some time to send you some resources or some links to you to check more about the industry. Make sure that you are in tune with your technical skills. Learn how to log into a webinar. God's sake, it's like the most valuable thing right now. Doing a calendar invite, the biggest thing that anyone could do right now, right? Those little small technical things that you have to learn. And last but not least, emotional intelligence. I think that all our panelists brought out that point. Emotional intelligence is really important, especially when you're managing a budget like the one that the Jason manages, or the 24/7 connectivity mentally that JP has to have every day in their jobs. Emotional intelligence is really important. And of course, like JP mentioned, and I think John and Pascual mentioned too, have passion for what you do. So if you find your passion, go for it. Money will come after. I could attest to that. So thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you all in our next opportunity. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, JP.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.